Hey there, welcome back to the Danielle D'Onofrio Daily Podcast. Today we're talking all about perfectionism in adult children. So, perfectionism just so happens to be the theme on my mind today, and that is what I bring to you guys on this daily podcast. What am I thinking about? What am I contemplating? What is sort of showing up on my journey? I also share stories from my day-to-day life just to give you guys an idea of the insights and perspectives that show up when you are a decade into the healing and personal growth journey as an adult child. So you guys get a little bit of an inside look into my thought processes. And just so you know, I have my book available on Substack. So the first two chapters, well, the introduction and chapter 1 are now available on Substack. And if you're watching this at a later date, there's going to be more and more posted. I'm posting those chapters as fast as I can so that they are accessible to you guys. You can go over there, subscribe for a very low monthly subscription fee, and read all the chapters of my book and comment and engage with the community over there. So you can get a deeper understanding of my methodology, which is the restorative lifestyle method. It's a 4-step method to holistic healing and empowerment for adult children. And I have been working on that methodology for 4 years, and it's essentially everything that I have learned along my own intentional journey so that I can help you guys out along your journey so that you understand better the principles and practices that are effective on this walk of life and what healing looks like, what it's supposed to show up like, right? What to do with the things and the emotions that show up along the way. And just so you have a better understanding of what's involved in this process. Because I know for me, when I first started, I had no idea, no clue what this was going to take, what was going to show up, how it was going to roll out, how long anything was going to take. It was just all such a mystery. And, a lot of it will remain a mystery because we're all different people. We all bring different things to the healing journey, different experiences, different types of trauma. We have layered on different types of false belief and defense mechanisms. So the journey's going to roll out a little bit differently for all of us, which is a beautiful thing because we're all beautifully unique. But there are tried and true principles and practices that will help you peel back the layers of what is essentially survival, peel back those layers so you can reconnect with your authentic self. And your authentic self is where peace, happiness, and abundance reside. Okay, so learn how to do that in my book over on Substack. There's a direct link right in the description below. And today we're talking all about perfectionism in adult children because so many of us struggle with perfectionism. But why do we struggle with that? Why is that such a common thread among people who have come up with childhood trauma or are trying to resolve a dysfunctional upbringing? Like, what is it about perfectionism that makes that such a difficult layer to peel back for us? Now, this is definitely connected to codependency, right? So now let's go back to what we were talking about a couple days ago as it relates to codependency. So when we come up sort of in dysfunctional circumstances, one of the ways that we learn to protect ourselves is to manage the opinions and the moods and the judgments of everyone around us, right? We're constantly trying to control our external circumstances to keep ourselves safe, right? So we bend and we mold ourselves and we just do anything we can to keep everyone happy, to keep the peace, right? To smooth everything out, to make sure this person isn't going to get grumpy, this person isn't going to get irritable. And if they are irritable, I'm going to sort of remove myself. And that's just sort of how we learn to protect ourselves, which, yay, as a kid, that might be a smart thing. It probably is a smart thing. And that's why they always say when you are a child growing up in dysfunctional circumstances, you come up with these defense mechanisms and these survival techniques that actually, they help you out as a kid. The problem is that when we bring them into adulthood, they start to sabotage us, right? We start to, we're failing to thrive in different areas of our lives because of these defense mechanisms and these survival tactics, because they may have been effective survival mechanisms back then, but now they're actually preventing us from fully thriving because we're grown adults now. We have full agency. Right? And we have to be independent and responsible, and we have to release that codependency, right? And so codependency and perfectionism are very much linked because with perfectionism, what we're trying to do is avoid at all cost getting something wrong or not being perfect, right? We're trying so hard to avoid judgment and trying so hard just to get that external validation. And for someone to say, oh, that's a great job, awesome work, you did great, you're a superstar, right? That was amazing work. But if one person, you can get tons of people saying good job, but if one person says to you, oh, well, I saw that mistake, or oh, I disagree with you on that, right? All of a sudden, all it takes is that one judgment, right? To kind of like, hit us, in wherever you feel shame, wherever you feel insecurity. For me, shame would always show up. I'm going to create a whole different video about sort of somatic integration. But for me, stress always shows up, it starts to rise from my belly into my chest, like this burning hot sensation. And so perfectionism, no matter what it is you're trying to avoid, perfectionism is one of those, tactics. And perfectionism can be is a huge problem. Well, I don't want to say it's a huge problem. It's not an unresolvable problem, but it will absolutely get in the way of you doing what you want to do in life. It will get in the way of you achieving the goals that you want to achieve for yourself, right? So it's a major block, and we have to learn to release it. And part of learning to release it, it comes with the same sort of process as healing codependency. They really go hand in hand, because if you're not a codependent person, right, if you have learned how to heal and release your codependency, you are going to be able to push past perfectionism as well. So they definitely go hand in hand. And it's really just remembering that you are, like we talked about in the codependency video a couple days ago, it's remembering that you are a complete and whole person who is allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to get it wrong. You're allowed to be a little bit messy sometimes, and that's okay. And anyone who decides to say something to you, right, or decides to judge you or critique you, that's their business. And as we release codependency, we really learn to let that stuff go. We let it bounce right off of us. And sometimes criticism can be valuable. But at the same time that we're letting things bounce off of us, we may be extracting little pieces of valuable insight, right? But not to the point where we're letting other people decide our worth, decide the quality of what we're doing or what we're creating, or how we're engaging. We're not letting other people decide that stuff for us anymore once we've released codependency, right? So once we realize, and here's the thing, is that releasing codependency, a big part of that is, we talked about a couple of the ways you do that. There's a video here, I'll link to it. Finding your voice and being able to speak up for yourself, right? That helps us release codependency. And also setting boundaries is a really big way to learn to identify what you need and what you want. The act of expressing your boundaries or explaining your boundaries to someone is another way to dissolve those codependent, those hooks. Codependency has its like claws in us, and we have to just like loosen it. And over time, as we practice healthier behaviors and we consider ourselves and what we need sort of separate from what other people are doing and what they need, it starts to loosen its grip, and then we don't have to be so rigid with ourselves about protecting and avoiding all those judgments and opinions, because it's like the volume just gets turned down. You just let people say what they're going to say. Let people make whatever judgments they're going to make, and it's like that's their business. It has nothing to do with you. And I'm reading an amazing book right now. It's by Byron Katie. It's called Loving What Is. And let me know in the comments below if you've read this book before. It is like, here's the thing with this book is I don't think that I would have been ready to read this book personally 5-10 years ago before, I went through a bulk of my journey so far, because I had to be able to receive the information in this book. It's definitely very confronting, but sort of one of the main gist is that, and you've probably heard this before, but Byron Katie just has this really clear and incredible way of explaining it, that any judgment we have of other people is a reflection of some way that we feel about ourselves. And for some reason, this book just cuts right to the chase. And like, you could have heard that a million times before. And this book just really like hammers it in. And it's just so obvious. And this is a concept that I've been learning over and over and over again. And you guys may have come across it too. But once you really fully understand and accept that no one can see you outside of their own distorted lens, people can only look through their own distorted lens at you and make a judgment based on how they feel about themselves, how they feel about the world, what their own set of false beliefs might be. So no one can actually give an accurate depiction or an accurate judgment or opinion on who you are or what you're doing or how good you are or how anything. No one can give that. It's just impossible for anyone else to have an honest, accurate, and true perception of you. It's just their own distorted stuff, right? So once you really, really fully grasp that and really just accept it for all the truth that it is, once you do, then it almost seems ridiculous. It does seem ridiculous. It's just a big nothing burger when someone has a judgment or opinion or a nasty comment or whatever it is, right? So all that stuff that you were working so hard to protect yourself from and using things like perfectionism, right? They're just not even there anymore. So the perfectionism isn't necessary. And then once that perfectionism doesn't become necessary anymore, boom, you do things with ease. You carry yourself through life with ease. You don't have to look perfect all the time. You don't have to have the perfect outfit all the time. Your makeup can be a little messed up. You can have a blemish without worrying about it. Your hair can be a little dirty and you throw it into a ponytail to kind of hide it like I did for this podcast. And it just doesn't matter because I'm me and I'm here. And all of that polish that we used to think was necessary just isn't necessary anymore. It's fun, still fun, like speaking from a woman's point of view, it's still fun for me to get dressed up and look cute and put my makeup on and do my hair nice and things like that, right? But it doesn't like that used to be, I used to have to make sure that I looked perfect as I could before I would go out somewhere. And I'd spend so much time because I was so afraid of some random person finding one thing that was wrong or one thing that was off about my outfit or my makeup or my hair or something like that. And I used to do that with my work also. And now granted, perfectionism and always having to strive that hard for a certain level of, productivity or outcomes or work, it can be beneficial to a degree. When I was working in my marketing career, my managers loved me because I always got done what I said I was going to get done, and I always did it to a very high level of quality, and because I was a perfectionist. And so when you're working for someone, someone who, a manager or a boss is going to love that because you're not letting things slip through the cracks and you're always putting in that extra effort to make sure things are just as good as you can possibly get it. But the problem is for you, that's exhausting. It's like you can't even carry it. You can carry it for a few years. And at least that was my experience, is that like I carried that in my career for, before I left work to become a stay-at-home mom. So I worked from like the age of 22 to 32. So about 10 years, right? I carried it for about 10 years. And when I had my second son and I was still doing that, it was like I had reached that point where I could not maintain that level all the time for any longer. And I think that contributed to my decision to leave my career and, become a stay-at-home mom. And I've always done work on the side. I've never completely stopped working, but I don't work full-time for an employer anymore, and I haven't for a long time. And I just couldn't carry that anymore. It just becomes exhausting. And I think that perfectionism is one of the things I talked in one of the last recent videos about how sometimes it's different for all of us, the thing that brings us to the journey, right? They say rock bottom looks different for everyone. And too many years of perfectionism could absolutely be the thing that drives you to the journey where you're like, something's got to give. I can't do this anymore. This is exhausting. And yes, some other people are maybe benefiting from my perfectionism, but like I can't keep going. So how do I let this go? And it is hard to let go, right? It can be very difficult to let go. When you work my methodology, again, you can grab access to the chapters of my book. I'm releasing them as quickly as I can over on Substack. The link is in the description below. But using my methodology, which is essentially creating an entire life ecosystem that revolves around healing and growth, you are going to learn how to unravel the codependency and unravel the false beliefs that lead you to perfectionism. So you absolutely can release it. You just got to put in the work, right? And learn how to put in the work, in the methodology. And the first pillar in the methodology is boundaries. And that is the most robust pillar in the book. It is the most critical, is definitely the prerequisite to the rest of the journey. And like I mentioned in the last codependency video, the act of setting boundaries is essentially the antidote to codependency. And codependency, like we said, goes hand in hand with perfectionism. So you're not going to be a perfectionist if you're not codependent. Okay? That's just how it is. If you are not worried about all the judgments of other people, and maybe it's not all other people, maybe it's like one or two other people, a parent that maybe you never felt like you could make proud of you or make happy, right? Or maybe you had trouble with, a boss or a teacher or a sibling. Sometimes it's not everybody. Sometimes it's just one person that we're working so hard to impress or not let down. The situation's going to be different for everyone, but codependency is going to look different for everyone too, right? So if we can release, you're not going to struggle with, like I just said, you're not going to struggle with perfectionism if you're not codependent. So we focus on healing codependency. And again, the antidote to codependency is learning how to effectively set boundaries. And boundaries, once you learn how to do it and you start to practice setting boundaries, and you begin to express your boundaries and it becomes second nature, that codependency it slips right away. And yeah, it's just really powerful stuff. And again, the first several chapters of my book all focus on boundaries. I share principles around boundaries. I share practices for learning how to set them and getting better at setting them, figuring out what you need. And I also share a number of personal stories to really get into the details on how boundaries can affect your everyday life and your relationships and, how that's sort of played out in my life. So you get all of that in the first several chapters of the book. So yeah, I think one of the reasons I was thinking about perfectionism today is because I'm thinking about this daily podcast, which I have done videos and started podcasts and I've done so much of this online content stuff in bits and pieces over the last several years. And when New Year's was on its way in for 2025, I was like, I'm going to do this every single day in 2025 because it felt like an ambitious goal, but also something that was digestible. And as I started to post them, of course, there's the first several days when nothing happens and no one's really seeing them and there's no results. And I really just had to, and again, it's only day 13. This is only the 13th episode because it's January 13th. But I really just had to stick with it. And now I'm getting to the point where, okay, people are starting to see the videos, whatever, the algorithm's working for me because it sees I'm posting every day and it's on a niche topic and things like that. And as I see the community growing, which I'm so excited about. That's all I really wanted to do was have interesting conversations about this topic and connect with other adult children who just need to hear about the experiences of people who've come along the journey before them. It's like grabbing my hand back and pulling people along with me and just giving you a little bit of advantage through my stories and insights. But anyway, now that I see the community growing a little bit, I'm starting to think oh, geez, what did I say in these last videos? Are they good enough? Are my descriptions good enough? Did I include the right links? Am I describing who I am the right way? And, now as I see that there are people watching these videos, again, which is so exciting, which means that you can, see my work and my work can help the world. But those old feelings of perfectionism are showing up. But I realize there's no way I could post a podcast every day and put in the same kind of rigor, perfectionist rigor that I used to put into my work and also do this every day because it would take up my whole day and I don't have time for that. I've got kids. I'm a homeschooling, stay-at-home mom. I'm super busy. Like this has to be efficient, which means if I want to do it, I have to just be myself, come at you guys with my honest and authentic thoughts that are in my head today, and I got to post. And this is going to help, whoever it's going to help. And I can't get it perfect because here's the thing. At the end of the day, there's no such thing as perfect. We can do the best that we can do with what we have and in the circumstances that we have. And that it's not just about work. It's about our health, our fitness, our relationships, our home, our parenting. Like there is no such thing as perfection, as perfect, right? It's impossible to be perfect. So when we embrace that we are good enough as we are okay. Like you are okay. You're okay. You're okay as you are. Like we don't have to be bigger, better, and more successful, thinner, more beautiful, more handsome than other people to be okay. Like we can just be ourselves, however that is. And our work can just be our work. Our art can just be our art, and it's okay. So it's top of mind for me and the things I'm doing in my life right now. And I hope for you guys that you embark on the journey, that you go read the book over on Substack and learn these really effective principles and practices for for things as specific as healing codependency and improving your relationships, but overall how to create the life that you really want because you deserve it and you have a calling and you have, all of the peace and joy and abundance that's available to everyone. You have it too, and it's already inside you. It's just living within your authentic self, which is, if you're early in the journey or you haven't started yet, it's just covered by a bunch of layers of survival because of how you came up in the past, how you grew up. But those layers can be peeled back, like literally just watching these videos and deciding to go on a journey and setting a little bit of intention to the fact that you want to heal and you want to grow, those layers are already going to start to peel back, right? And then what you have to learn how to do is, how do you deal with the emotions and the thoughts and the beliefs and the trauma responses and the things that show up as you peel back those layers? Because as you peel back the layers, you're allowing old stuff that's stored and wreaking havoc on your holistic self, mind, body, soul. You're peeling back the layers and you're going to be letting it come to the surface. So, learning how to deal with that stuff as it comes to the surface is important because it's stuff that you have probably suppressed for a long time. It's stuff that can be very uncomfortable and difficult to process. And so if you need help doing that along the way, definitely reach out to me. I have done a lot of trauma-informed work, particularly my yoga teacher training was very much trauma-informed work, learning how to deal with that tough stuff as it shows up, and it shows up unexpectedly, and it's okay. It's okay. You just have to learn how to acknowledge it and then let it pass through. I think I mentioned in yesterday's podcast that you don't have to spend a lot of time with it. You don't have to overanalyze it. You don't have to you can go to therapy if you want, but you don't have to spend so much time talking about the things that show up. You don't have to. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. The art of the healing journey is learning how to let that stuff show up and just acknowledge it and then let it pass through, because it's just old. It's old stuff. It's old emotions. It doesn't have to dictate your life now, but it does want a way to release from your body. And that is what the journey is all about. Okay? So I'm going to wrap it up for today. Again, you can get a link to my book in the description below over on Substack. Really small monthly subscription fee to read the book. I decided not to go the route of publishing the book, because all I want to do is get it out there as fast as possible so that you guys can read it. And so Substack felt like the easiest way to do that and the easiest way for you guys to access it. So go ahead and head over there, start reading those chapters, leave me a comment. If this video was helpful, I'd love for you to hit the thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That really helps me a lot, be able to reach more people who need this content. And also, if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you get alerted when I release new videos, which I am here every single day. in the year of 2025 and maybe even beyond. But I am committed to being here and growing the community and connecting with you guys and helping you out along your journey. So thank you so much. If you have made it this far in the video, thank you so, so much. I'm so glad to have you here, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. Well, I won't see you, but you'll see me, and I hope you come back. All right, so take care. I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye.